Here's the ugly truth. Most Americans will never own their dream home. Some will never even own a home at all. The system isn't designed for you to win, sadly. It's designed for you to rent, to refinance, and to restart the cycle over and over and over again. But what if owning the American dream of owning a home isn't dead? It's just transforming into something completely different than what we originally promised. We'll discuss all this in today's episode, starting in 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Who are we? Hey, 7-figure squad. Where we go? Run it up, run it up.
What's cracking, everybody? My smart guy, Sapaula here, and welcome back to the 7-Figure Squad YouTube channel in the Keep the Keys Financial Wake Up series. And for generations, the picture of the American dream was crystal clear, very simple. A steady job, a family, a house, and a yard with a picket fence. You see that. That vision defined success for decades. But how is it going in 2025? That picture feels more like a fantasy than a future. And polls show a majority of renters believe they'll never own a home. No matter how hard they work, they're never going to own a home. And the math doesn't add up. And the headlines are so discouraging. And the frustration is real for many people. And yet, here's a twist. The dream isn't dead. It's just shifting. It's being redefined. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Why are so many Americans feeling locked out of home ownership? And what's really happening beneath the surface? And what can you do to avoid being trapped by the broken system? Well, I'm excited to share these items with you so we can break it down. The national median price for a home right now is over $420,000. Now, crazy part is the median household income is only $78,000. Homes used to cost 2 to 3 times income. Today, 5 to 6 times. Mortgage rates are still sitting in 6 to 7% range, even if Jerome Powell decided to drop the interest rates last week. But the rates are still double of what we saw just a few years ago. What does that mean? It means that first-time home buyers aren't buying until what now? It used to be in the high 20s. Now it's in the 38 age range. And the highest age range of home ownership in American history is right now. And it's not just numbers. It's also psychological. No matter how much you save, no matter what you work, no matter try to pay the bills, the goalposts keep moving. And that's why 1 in 4 millennials believe they'll never own a home in their lifetime. But let me show you how this breaks down by generation. According to the latest reports, the median age of a first-time homebuyer now is plus 36, 38 years old. This is a record high. And millennials today are seeing around 47% home ownership rate, while baby boomers are near 74%. Now, that's not just a gap, it's a timeline. Younger families are buying later, owning less, and spending more money in rent before they ever get a shot at building home equity. So when you hear people say, oh, it's just tough right now, things will bounce back. The reality is the American dream isn't bouncing. It's drifting further away from an entire generation. Let's give you some context. Compare that to your grandparents. Well, if you had grandparents, I wasn't raised by my grandparents, but during this generation of World War II, home ownership skyrocketed after World War II from 44% to 62% in just 20 years. One single family income could afford a house, a car, and a stable life, and mom could stay home. Today, a family would need an income of 3 households just to match the affordability of one household back then. No wonder the American dream feels broken. And here's the trap. You're sold the idea of a forever home. Granite countertops, big backyard, Instagram worthy of everything you have in a house. And here's the problem though. When you stretch for that dream house, you become house poor and cash poor. Case study. A family that bought at 3% interest in 2021, they felt rich. Babe, we got the dream house. But then property taxes doubled. Insurance premiums exploded. Now they're cash flow negative, paying more for this mortgage, and praying that they don't lose the home they thought that was a blessing. Now, let's check this out. I found a clip that perfectly shows what's happening in today's housing market.
Last year in South Florida, if you were looking to buy a home, there was very little supply, but lots of demand. Sellers making massive profits off their homes in a short time frame. But today, we're seeing a new trend of sellers taking their homes off the market.
Now, I'm in an era where it was very inexpensive to get a mortgage through the pandemic. They dropped interest rates so low. I mean, the mortgage program is so attractive and exciting to buy a house. I saw this trend happening not only during the pandemic, but I also saw this trend in the mid-2000s, where there was a seller's market, buyer's market, seller's market. And right now, we're in a buyer's market.
And South Florida has the highest rate in the nation. According to Realtor.com, in the month of July for the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach metro, for every 100 homes posted for sale, 59 of them were removed.
Wow.
And the listings weren't posted for a short time. In the Tri-County area, the average listing spent 88 days on the market, the longest amount of time compared to any other top metro.
So this is very important for everybody that thinks that building equity in a house is the end all be all. Well, here's a problem. These folks putting all this money inside the house, paying off the house, now all their cash went to rush to pay off the house. Now the equity is just sitting there. And here's the thing too as well. How much home equity is putting money into your pocket every month? If it's not putting any money into your pocket every month, then your house is not an investment. Many people look at their home as an investment. It's the definition of an investment is you put your money towards something and then you get some form of interest or dividend back. Whereas home equity, you can pay this off for 10, 20, 30 years. A house has been paid off. But unless it's paying you cash, interest, or dividends, it's not an investment. So all these folks are looking to cash out, retire, move, relocate, downsize, stuck. Because all the cash is stuck up in the property. That's why it's one thing to get the keys. It's another thing to keep the keys, or in this case, stay liquid and keep control of your finances.
But we compare that to the national average. For every 100 homes, only 21 are taken off. And the average listing time was 58 days. Now, real estate...
Now, here's the thing, too, as well. What goes on with keeping your property listed and it doesn't sell? What does a rational realtor do? Conversation with a client. If your house ain't selling, guess what you do? You drop the price of the property. I'll give you an example. Let's take a look at realtor.com here. Go to realtor.com. And I'm going to punch in Dallas, where I'm at, okay? Let's go to that. I was just in Chicago the other day, so let's punch in Dallas. Dallas property, Dallas listings. Right now, if you look here on the top left corner, it says approximately 6,000, oops, go to Dallas. There's approximately 6,031 homes for sale in Dallas. Now, what I'm going to do is drop this check mark in terms of property reduced. How many have reduced the sales price of the property? Let's take a look at this. Done. 5,020 homes. So let me do that one more time. So 1520, 6,031. So 6,000. So 1520 of 6,031. What is that? Approximately 25% of all the homes in Dallas right now have dropped and reduced the price, meaning they took cash off the table in order to see more people potentially make offers or do an open house or visit the property. That's what happens when you trap all the cash inside the property and you don't have any control of the equity that's inside there, and you're beholden to the real estate market or some other potential buyer by sending a contract your way. Let's go back to the finishing of this video.
Prices that we're seeing are a product of what happened during the COVID pandemic and with the rush of people coming down here, purchasing homes or relocating. But since we've already had some time after the pandemic, a lot of people who came from New York or other parts of the country who were working here remotely have now had to go back to their home state and go back to their jobs. But the issue is the prices really haven't accommodated. So a lot of these owners that have their homes at these high prices, they see no reason to drop it.
So what does this mean for you? Garita says, number one, if you're looking for a place to live, you should consider the rental market, as in sometimes...
So here's the thing. What's the challenge with the rental market? What's that narrative? In other words, you're paying for rent, which is great if you're there short term. If you have a short-term mentality of where you live, for example, when we moved to Dallas, we rented for a year. We didn't like the house. We liked the neighborhood. We just didn't like the house. We put all our stuff in storage because we wanted to ask ourselves, babe, we're relocating from Chicago to Dallas. Where do we really want to live? We hear about Plano, we hear about Frisco, we hear about Louisville, we hear about all these different areas in North Dallas. And based on where we have our office currently in Carrollton, where do we want to live? So we rented for a year just to see the market, just to see the school system, just to see what the daily traffic is like because we're moving to a new area. But once you figure that stuff out, we're like, babe, we want to move to Frisco. Let's go to Frisco. We really want to live in Frisco. But in the meantime, we rented. So if you're going to rent, totally get it. Rent with purpose. Rent with a strategy. Because if you're just there to rent, just to survive, and you don't have any strategy, guess what's going to happen? You're potentially going to give up a lot of equity and opportunity cost to a landlord. You're building them equity and not you equity. I'm thinking too as well, there's a school of thought there. You just want to rent for the rest of your life. Some people think that way. Yeah, if you want to be flexible, you want to move here, ping here, ping there, totally get it. But a lot of people are not considering renting because, let's say 10 years from now, what do you want to show for? And different arguments of, well, listen, I don't want flexibility. I don't want to be tied down to anything. Okay, do you know how long it takes to up and relocate after settling down for a while with your kids, pulling them out, it's not that easy. 3, 4, 5 years, next 10 years goes by, you don't want to leave the school district, you want to leave the area because your kids are going to school there, you want to have them consistency in their life. So you know, you're waiting there until they're done with 8th grade or maybe a freshman, senior in high school. These conversations happen whether or not you rent or own. So if you're going to find a place to buckle down at, consider owning versus renting. But if you're going to rent, use a strategy I used, which is a rent-to-own strategy. In other words, if you think a house is too expensive right now, at least you can afford the monthly mortgage payment or the monthly rental payment, consider the offer of a rent-to-own contract to the landlord or to the owner of the current property. I've done that many times in my life. I've saved the difference and invested that back into my business. I'm not dependent upon just being renting. I had a purpose of why I was renting. The difference I saved between renting and owning was put back into my business. And then when we move, rent to own type contract. Otherwise, we save that money for a further down payment down the road. That's how we bought this house. My wife's first house together with us in our marriage, but we rented for literally 8 years of our marriage, but we rented with purpose.
It's sometimes more affordable, and you can negotiate price. Number 2, if you want to buy a home, look at how long it's been listed. If it's anywhere between 4 to 6 months, Garita says there may be a reason.
At the end of the day, you don't know what's going on. There could be a death in the family. They need to relocate. They need a bigger home. And at that point, they may be more open to adjusting their price and making a deal.
Yeah, because if they're keeping their house on the market, they're just waiting for an offer. They're waiting for something to happen. They're waiting to move. They're waiting to go to the next city and state. They're looking to put this door behind them so therefore they can move on. They're what you call a motivated seller. A motivated seller might make certain deals for you, add some concessions to make it equitable for you to buy the property. Another example might be interest rate buy downs. If you offer a contract in the property and you say, listen, I want 60 grand back from, or 1% back, 2%, whatever the case may be, in like say 40 grand or 50 grand back from the deal to buy down my rate. So instead of buying it at 6%, now you're getting the mortgage now at 4%. You lock in that rate for the next 15, 30 years. That's one way to reduce your overall monthly mortgage payment on behalf of the seller who might be motivated to sell it at their current asking price, but kick it back to you in terms of a contract, allowing you to buy down your rate. As we continue here, this is not normal. Sellers usually aren't willing to adjust their prices. Buyers can't afford the rates. And the result, stuck. We're frozen market. So this isn't a correction. Right now, we're facing a standoff, and standoffs don't build stability. And the data backs this up. CBS News just reported delistings are nearly up 50% from last year. For every 100 new listings, 21 homes are being taken off the market. For example, we just saw in Miami, it's even worse. 27 out of 100 listings vanish without sales. They're stuck. They're there. Why? Sellers would rather wait than lower their price. But waiting doesn't fix affordability. It just traps equity until they sell the property and discourages potential buyers. And this is why the market feels like quicksand and everybody's stuck. But to be fair, critics will say, Matt, homes are still being bought. Bidding wars are still happening. Doesn't that prove that the American dream is still alive? Yes, homes are still being bought, but mostly by dual income households stretching thin, or investors with cash, or families relocating from higher cost states. See, the thing is, that's not stability. This is a survival of the fittest. And the American middle class, sadly, is being squeezed out. If you ask me, I don't even believe the American dream has been or ever has been about home ownership. The real American dream is business ownership. Why? Because business ownership creates cash flow. It creates an asset that you can drive and you can control. And that's the fuel you use to acquire homes, acquire assets, and other properties. I was a renter for a good part of my life, as I previously mentioned, but I rented with purpose. My house wasn't about showing off. It was specifically about getting my kids in a safer and better school district. And back then, parents were living in these nice houses, and they're still sending their kids to private schools. Man, what a waste of money. But until I realized that public schools were actually teaching things I didn't agree with. So I'll be responsible. I'll be responsible for my kids teaching about sexuality, not the school. And I realized this was going even on in good public schools. In fact, they ought to be teaching financial literacy, but it's identity politics. And by the way, even certain private schools, we weren't insulated. And my wife said, babe, enough is enough. We pulled our son out. We put him to a different Christian school. Stewardship, folks, isn't just about money. It's about family and improving the quality of a life for the people you love and care about. If I'm paying for education, I want that education for my children who are around other people more throughout the day than I am, that I want it grounded in the values, morals, and principles that I believe in. And now, our youngest, he's being homeschooled. When his private school shut down for mismanagement, we hired their best teacher. We recruited a few other parents to combine with us and redirected tuition dollars into paying her a full-time salary, much more working with us than she was at the school. And she now makes more money teaching a handful of kids at her home than she did teaching 15 kids in a classroom. This is the American dream I'm talking about. Freedom, flexibility, and options come your way because of business ownership. Business ownership gives me the ability to control my income, to scale my income, and create jobs from the revenue it generates. So what can you do? Here are 4 steps straight from my book, Keep the Keys. Number 1, run the clarity test. Make sure every asset you acquire or potentially acquire, you have control, you have liquidity, you have access cost, you have rate of return, you have insurance benefits, you have tax advantages, and you have yield safety. If something fails 3 of these categories, reposition, consider something else. And you need a plan for when life hits, meaning you have access to tax-free cash, guaranteed income streams, living benefits. Do not wait for a crisis to then make a decision. Reposition equity before a crisis. Move trapped home equity into liquid protected vehicles early, sooner than later. Have a legacy liquidity plan. A house isn't a legacy, liquidity is. Last but not least, make sure heirs inherit options and not burdens. And this is where my book, Keep the Keys and Gotcha collide. Because one of the biggest gotchas, the 5 gotchas of monies I have in my book, is called inflation. It's just not groceries. It's just not gas. It's property taxes, it's insurance premiums, and rising healthcare costs. And without a liquidity strategy, your dream home becomes your nightmare. In the Bible, in Luke chapter 14, verse 20, it says this: suppose you want to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost? You see, owning a home without counting the true cost doesn't set you free. It makes you a slave to debt, a slave to taxes, and a slave to upkeep, and you get buried in your supposed American dream. So, will Americans ever own their American dream home? I think so, yes, but not if they keep chasing the illusion. Now, the smart families are redefining success. They're building liquidity, they're building control and clarity first. They're owning the most expensive thing that they need to control, which is their income, not renting their income from a boss, but owning their cash flow. In the next episode, I'm exposing the next silent killer of home ownership that's draining families faster than interest rates. Most people aren't watching for it, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. Now, if you're getting value from these series, please hit that like button, please subscribe, and drop keys in the comment section below. And for your next step, head over to my website, keepthekeysbook.com, to download my free clarity scorecard and worksheet. This is the exact same tool I use to help families take control over their finances. We'll also include a link in the description column below. And grab a copy, please, of my best-selling book on Amazon called Keep the Keys. And last but not least, don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a financial wake-up call today. That being said, I appreciate you guys tuning into the 7 Figure Squad YouTube channel. Until next episode in the Keep the Keys series, continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today.